Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the first Funtime, hosted by Sean McCluskey and the wonderful Rusty Egan. I want to say thank you, first of all, to All Enjoy Studios, Mark Anthony, Abel for ClusterView, who's filming us tonight, and obviously to Rusty as well. So, Rusty, we've got an hour. I know we both love to talk, so we're going to try and cover as much as possible.
Can I just say we're filming for TerryTopCat's podcast?
Well, it's for ClusterView.com. It's Mark's website.
Brilliant. It's brilliant. Yeah. I love what you do.
Thank you so much. And we love you. So I'm gonna kind of give a background about myself. I'm a big, massive music fan and massive Adam Ant fan. And I think I was 13 years old when this came out. So I heard Fade Grey on the radio, and I absolutely loved that song. And I'm not sure whether it was the first album I bought, but it's definitely the first album I listened to. And I just want to ask you about all the musicians that are on the album, and then we'll go into the rich kids and about all the nightclubs that you've, organised. But this album, Visage, that came out, I think 1980.
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, I want to say about the musicality, because the music stands to the test of time. I mean, I was listening to the other day, and then it kind of was like a light bulb moment when I was like, oh my God, this was the first music I ever listened to, and I was 13 years old. But I also love all the other songs, like Tar, My Paso Man, Moon Over Moscow, and it stands the test of time, Rusty. It's such a brilliant album. So can you explain how you met the musicians and how Visage was formed?
Yeah, I can, but I don't want to go on forever. But I want to be very interested, and I want to just explain that I'm a drummer. And as a drummer, I was into the drum sound, and I was into the technique, and I was into Steve Gadd, and I listened to albums and read who played what studio it was recorded in, who played, So I was following really good musicians and working out that I wasn't actually ever going to be that good. And I had a day job as a 17-year-old, which was running around recording studios and pop stars' houses as a runner for a record company. And I used to go to Led Zeppelin's office in the King's Road, Yes's office in Hillgate Street, Notting Hill, and I was just mad to get into a band. I thought, I don't want a career in a record company or a studio. I want to get in a band. And as a drummer, I went to the National Youth Jazz Orchestra on a Saturday morning, and it was really, time signatures, reading drum music. You can read music as a drummer. And I just thought, Ringo wasn't even the best drummer in the Beatles, I was just going to find a band. So I went out auditioning, and I auditioned for The Clash in Camden. And they said, come back. You know what an audition is? Yeah, you're good, but come back. And I came back, 1, 2, 3, 4. And Peter Piss, for me as a drummer. London's burning with boredom now. Right, okay. We got a gig tonight, why don't you come? And I went to the Roxy, and I went to the ICA, and I went to all these gigs. And then I met all these other people that were in bands. And AI has regenerated them, haven't they? They've got you going into the Roxy, or there's Joe Strummer and there's Paul Simon. And so I basically lived that as a sort of 19-year-old. And went to Madame Louisa's club, met Susie and Stevie Severin and The Damned. And the record industry, outside of independent people, were in another world. Seals and Crofts' new album's out, and you're going, have you heard of The Damned? Have you heard of The Clash? No, they have no interest in what was going on. So indie, you could just make a record on vinyl, take it to Rough Trade and sell 500 and make some more. You could do it yourself. As a matter of fact, the bands, punk bands, they had the attitude that just do it. And Malcolm McLaren, as you know, with the Pistols, and Bernie Rhodes were in the fashion business. So you could go down to King's Road and you could buy something which was a ripped up t-shirt or something, and because nothing, you could go in a junk shop and write all over it, like now, like Stuart Trevor does now, upscale old clothes, bringing them back to life. And the odd record label, like my friend Dave Robinson, who had Stiff Records, and if it ain't on Stiff, it ain't worth a... They had an attitude, but they were a generation older than us. So they were like old, 26, 27, they were old, you know. And I used to go to see Bees Make Honey, go to all the pubs, go to Hope and Anchor, and they were packed, these pubs, of real brilliant bands, but I could understand 1, 2, 3, 4. I could understand I'm so bored with the USA. I could understand the attitude of punk, and I absolutely loved it. But I was a punk for about 18 months at everything, and I still wasn't in a band. Well, fucking good, you know, everybody was in a band, you know. So it wasn't until Glenn Matlock got kicked out of the Sex Pistols that Mick Jones from The Clash said, you should go and see Glenn. And that's how I got my first band. But I was out every night, every club. You know, I'm on the guest list, I'm with the band, you know, I'm carrying a drumstick, you know, I never paid to get in, and I didn't drink or take drugs or anything. I just went out.
Sounded great times. I mean, it was a fantastic time.
It was a fantastic time. So to sit here now and say, January the 1st, 1977, I was at The Clash at the Roxy, and I saw The Clash supporting Shakin' Stevens.
What?
You know, I went to Dingwalls to hear Susie and the Banshees, and this fucking old band called Dire Straits were on. You know, old people, you know. And we were like that, you know. And I went to the Speakeasy every night because you couldn't get home. But it was open till 4 in the morning. So if you went to the Speakeasy, you could hang around till about nearly 4:30, 5. And then you could get home, you saw these people going to work. And you were like, mind you, they could afford to go to, you couldn't afford nothing. So you fell out of clubs at 4 in the morning. And if you were lucky, you went back to someone's flat and talked about music. And you would be, you know, the after party, and there'd be a guy, I managed someone, you'd never heard of him. And they were always amazing people and journalists, and Caroline Coon, and, you know, there were all these quite really cool people. Of course, I wasn't cool. Meaning, I wasn't in a band. You know, it wasn't until Glenn Matlock that I really found another person that I could make music with. And Glenn, for my entire life, has been nothing but a wonderful, wonderful friend and supporter, and said yes to everything. You know, when people can't make it, yeah, I'd love to be there, but, you know, can't make it. Some people make it even when they had babies, right? So, yeah.
So that's where you met Midjour in the Rich Kid?
No, we didn't meet Midjour. What happened was, anybody know that Malcolm McLaren was in Scotland, and they saw Midjour before they had Johnny Lydon in the Pistols, and they saw him, and he had straight jeans, winkle pickers, short hair, in a sea of flares, you know. Everybody looked like the Bay City Rollers, and there was this cool-looking guy. So Malcolm goes, all right. He always tells the story, 2 dodgy blokes in a motor stopped me, you know. Do you want to join our band? And Glenn took that with him from the stories in the rehearsal room and said, I know what singer I'm going to get. And we went to Glasgow to try to convince him. Imagine me trying to convince you of anything, you know. And I was up there going, your career's over, you know. I was going, slick, fucking rubbish. You need to get to London, mate. And he'd go, all right, I'll just come. For a rehearsal. And he came for a rehearsal, and we rehearsed all day. Imagine just playing drums all day. We said, right, let's go out. Let's go to Hope and Anchor. And we went to the Hope and Anchor, and Sting said, the support band hasn't showed up. You can use our back line. So we're away. So Midge was literally on stage the day he arrived, does a rehearsal, singing the songs, and I'm on Stuart Copeland's drum. They were fantastic. They just said that was what it's like then.
Yeah.
You know, you just let them get up and play. And then we did it at the Andrew Logan's party, and then we jumped up at the marquee. So we were just jumping up everywhere, playing. People would say, "Oh, you're on. You can go on. I'll fit you on. Yeah, I'll fit you on." You know.
And different times, obviously, with promoters as well, because obviously now it's very different.
Well, the thing about, let's say, the Blitz Club, the thing about punk, the thing about what you would call pub rock, the thing is that you're all in it together. Some of you made it, you know, some of you didn't, but you were all part of something. So there'll be like 25 pub rock bands, like Nick Lowe, you know, there'll be like Elvis Costello, there'll be all these bands.
All great.
Yeah.
Great name.
And some of them would need a drummer, or you know, they all knew everybody. And there was a place on a motorway called a Blue Boar. And every road crew said, we're going to stop at a Blue Boar. So you do some gig, play to 100 kids in somewhere, and then you'd end up in the Blue Boar with all the other bands. You know, it was like the after party. And then they go, "You're in a shit band. We need a drummer." You know, and they'd all be nicking each other. Yeah, he's a good bass player. And they all moved around. You know.
So coming back to Visage, tell us how they all formed, how you met Steve Strange, actually.
Oh yeah, Steve was like a fan. Meaning he's run away from school and run away from home. He was crashing at Jean-Jacques Brunel's place, the Stranglers. Well, wherever I lay my hat, he'd go to a gig. Can I stay at yours? Yeah, can I stay at yours? You know. And when I was in Wales on tour, I said to the band, "I'll see you in where's the next gig?" Well, I don't know where it was. "I'll see you in Birmingham," you know. And then I just hung out with Steve, and I really thought he was a fantastic bloke. And his history was, and he was also mates with Marco, and so was I. So we were all sort of, yeah, you know. I don't know if you've seen it, but you can get homeless people, they will share their McDonald's. You know, when you've got nothing, you'll share it. And it's a camaraderie, you know, we're all in this together. And all right, Steve, I've got a place, you can stay at mine. And you go, "Yeah, I'm going to a party with Angie Bowie." I go, "Fucking hell, I'm coming along to that," you know. So there was always something in it for me. And I went to a club and I met Japan, you know, the band. And there was always something in it with Steve. And you go, "Look, I'm going to go to a club in Soho. If anybody says anything to you, just let me know." And what he was trying to tell me was, it's a fucking clip joint, you know, and the boys going in there with men. Basically, what's it called? It's cruising.
Cruising.
Yeah, I'm going cruising. So I'm with a gay guy, and I'm not gay. I go, and then suddenly it's like, "Yeah, I'll see you later." And Steve would go off into the night, and I'll go to the speakeasy on my way home, you know. And when I got to the speakeasy, Giorgio would say, "Are you hungry?" I go, "Yeah." He'd go, "Right, eat whatever the fuck you want and get in the DJ booth." "What?" He said, "The DJ's passed out in the toilet." Yeah, and it was like one in the morning, and Johnny Thunders would get on stage, you know, and they were all passed out. Yeah. And my brother was a heroin addict at the Isle of Wight Festival and all that. So I didn't drink, I didn't take drugs. My parents were Irish, Catholic. Everything I saw was drunks and drugs. And I said, "I'm not having any of that." I wouldn't go near it. So, and all I ever saw was people passed out. And back in those days, Piccadilly Circus was like drug addicts everywhere. It was a really horrible, depressing time. So for me, I didn't see any attraction in getting high. You know, just people being sick and fighting and drugs. No, not for me. Music was my drug.
So was that the first time you went DJ'd?
Yeah, so when I DJ'd, this is really important, and I'm a drummer, and there's that album that you're talking about. So I didn't own any records. I used to go in this place, the Speakeasy, and then go through all these records and pull out what I thought was great. Television, Marquee Moon. Oh, I fucking love that. Oh, great. You know, whatever it was, Marianne Faithfull. Oh, yeah, the Stones, I can play the B-side of that. You know, and all this. So I just played all the music that I loved. And Patti Paladin was the girlfriend of Johnny Thunders. And she had a band called Snatch. Which has a double entendre, if I'm not mistaken. And her partner was Judy Nylon, and she was from New York. So there's like these girls that look like Joan Jett, and they're from New York, and they had leather jackets, and they told me about Little Johnny Jewel, you know, he's so cool, and Richard Hell, you know, Blank Generation, and Talking Heads, the first single, My Love is like a building which is on fire. So I basically went down to Rough Trade, the only place where you could buy music that nobody was interested in. And then I found the Normal, you know, Warm Leatherette.
Yes, great.
And I found Electricity, OMD. And then I was in a band, and everywhere I went, I tried to find the people that made the records that I had. And I'd find vice versa in Sheffield became ABC. So I was kind of like telling people, you're fucking brilliant. And they were going, nobody knows who we are. You know, nobody cares who we are. I go, no, that record is brilliant. And so I was like, fan. I'm like an enthusiastic fan. And I've always stated, like now, if you talk to some musicians, they don't listen to music. They're not fans. I think fans, like you, you know, you know what studio you knew who was the sound engineer. You knew, like me, I knew all that. I knew everything. And when I met someone like Tom Waits, and I met him, I was a complete fan. And I was going, I went to the Tropicana Hotel in LA. I went to, you know, up to that place which you say in that song. You know how people do. They go to Cypress Avenue in Dublin from Van Morrison. If you write a song, and you're a fan because you know what the lyrics are. You know where the place was, what the song is about. That's a real fan and a real music lover. I could say the same about fashion.
Let's talk about fashion.
There are people that you go, God, you're wearing that T-shirt. Where'd you get that T-shirt? There's only like 400 of them in the world, and I know 300 people who own it. And you know, I was hanging obviously with John Galliano, but I was online the other day. There's so many trolls, isn't there? So many trolls, and I made a comment. It was about Basquiat and Keith Haring, and I said, oh, I remember meeting them in the Mike Todd room in New York when whatever was on. And then you'll get like, oh, you're so full of shit. And you go, oh, I don't even want to talk to these people. Just fuck off. But that was a happy memory of remembering when you went to a club, everybody did something. You know, everybody was somebody. So what I've said about tonight, Funtime, hey babe, I like your dress. What I said about tonight was, I'm a superstar just waiting to be discovered. That has stayed with me for 45 years because that was what Marilyn and Boy George told people when they were basically on the dole. Yeah, but what do you do? Like, when people talk to you, it's like an insult. Like, yeah, but what do you do? And if you're a student, you're like, oh, you're only a student. It's like an insult. Like, your job or your career or your position is meant to make you a better person or a worthy person, you know. Or well, I'm not going to waste my time with you. Whereas I look at it like this. I look at it that the student, the 18-year-old, yeah, is the future. To me, when I was 17, 18, everybody I spoke to was going to do something and going to be you know.
So let's talk about fashion. So that time, especially, you had Boy, you had Vivienne Westwood.
That's Steph. Steph was PX before he was Boy.
Okay.
And Steph Rayner. Well, let me put it like this. I don't know much about fashion, but I think Stuart Trevor is here, the guy who started All Saints, yeah? And he understands the fashion. There were people in fashion from Malcolm McLaren, Bernard Rose, Steph Rayner, and John Cravine. He had Acme Attractions. Who worked in Acme Attractions? Don Letts. Who was the DJ at the Roxy Club? Don Letts. Okay. What did Don Letts do? Played reggae to, and he's in the photograph. He's in the photograph with all the police for Wyatt Riot. It's Don Letts.
Yeah.
So there were people in fashion that were the punks of fashion. They were the people that said, I'm going to put a rail of clothes there and you can see my arse and everything, you know what I mean? And they made clothes with tits on them and cowboys with cocks on them. They were the punks of fashion. And if you were attracted to their clothes, you know, which not many people were. You know, who's going to walk down the road with that? You know what I mean? So I was attracted to the fashion because obviously I love Bowie, right, and Roxy music. So we were all a clan, you know. I mean, if there's 40 people here, everybody knows somebody somewhere. We're all connected, right, because we're here. But you could put a camera there and there could be 40,000 people watching going, he's full of shit. What's he on about? I can't get this. Who does he care about? You know what I mean? There's all these people. But if you take them offline, well, they don't know. So right then, 45 years ago, nobody knew about that little club. Nobody knew about Little Johnny Jewel. Nobody knew Phil Collins played the drums on the B-side of that. And nobody knew anything. But they knew everything when you met them. Yeah. So you ended up going, I'm not going to have a conversation with him, you know. I'm not going to bother.
So talking about DJing, tell us about when you first heard Kraftwerk and then didn't you go to Dusseldorf to kind of...
Well, that was a little bit later. This is really important, right? Because if you are 19 or 20 and you've only been, let's say, a college, you're barely out of college, right? You're not really confident at what it is that you do. Well, to me, if you look at, let's say you look at an Uber driver and you say, I want to be an Uber driver, right? If you talk to an Uber driver, actually communicate, instead of going, hi, great, sorry, I've just got to get on my phone. If you actually communicate with the Uber driver, you find out that it is like a part-time job. He's got this other thing that he really loves, that he wouldn't be driving the Uber if he could do the other thing all the time. And then you leave that Uber going, fuck me, I'm lucky. I do what I love, you know, and I just about survive. And I don't have to do something I don't. So my conversation with the Uber driver on the way here, which I had to have because I brought bags and bags of stuff, or else I'd be on the tube. But my conversation was, have you seen the Uber without a driver? And he went, yeah. I said, I went to San Francisco in 2018 with an app that works on a QR code, and you hold it up when somebody's singing and it goes ding, Andy Huntley, takes you straight to Andy Huntley. Ding, I love this guy, right? That's what it does. And I got told by tech people in San Francisco, nobody will use a QR code. And then COVID came along, right? Yeah, and couldn't even get in a fucking pub without a QR code. Anyway, the point is that app, I still own it, it's called Ubusk. Then, I'm back to the Uber driver. The point was, the Uber driver in San Francisco had never heard of Elon Musk or Tesla. And I was in 2018 in San Francisco because I knew that the future was going to be. Okay, DJing and Kraftwerk. Okay, if you went in a guitar shop, you bought a guitar and you got a bass player and a drummer, fine. Jimi Hendrix came over here and somebody said, I'll get you a bass player and drummer. You know, the bass player from the Animals. And then Nina Simone, she came over here and played at the Ronnie Scott's and hired a bass player and drummer. Van Morrison went to New York and made Astral Weeks and hired a bass player and drummer. you're just a fucking drummer, Rusty. And I was like, wow. So who's the drummer in Kraftwerk?
Exactly.
Well, he had invented his own machine. He invented Autobahn. I want it to sound like a train. Okay, so what I'm saying is, I got futuristic and went, I've got to investigate this. Well, at that time, you would buy a Bontempi organ, and it had a drum machine in it. And, you know, you'd go, boom, and you go, and you'd like play the organ at home, you know, and you'd buy sheet music, and like somebody would, but it had a drum machine in it. So there was a thing called a stylophone, and there was like basically one record by Giorgio Moroder, and it was called Son of My Father by Chicory Tip, and it had a subsonic bass sound, and it was a Moog. So the interest in synths is what split up the Rich Kids. And the last ever performance we did was live at some student place. Yeah, rock goes to college. You know, so some DJ that talks like that. Yay, rock goes to college, it's the Rich Kids. And Midge is standing behind a synthesizer, a Yamaha CS80, and I'm trying to play like I'm a drum machine. And Glenn Matlock, who's from the Sex Pistols, is going, what the fuck is that? You know, and Stevie New is like, you know, so they joined Iggy Pop. I mean, they were rockers.
Yeah.
And Midge and I went in the studio with my drum machine, and I recorded The Dancer, which is just drums, right? And then we put the Moog on it, and then we put the synth stabs and the strings. That was our first demo. And then I said, I want to get John McGeoch from Magazine. Do you know he plays sax? No, he's a guitar player. No, but he plays sax. So we got John McGeoch, and he's on it.
Great.
And then I said, John, I fucking love Magazine. I love the light pours out of me. I love that Barry Adamson, you know. He goes, well, I think we're going to split up. Well, I'm fucking leaving. What? Well, I've been invited to join, you know, Pill or something. So I go, mate, come in the studio. So the point was, by 78, 79, which is a lifetime ago, all those amazing musicians were being dropped. We've got, you know, the pop, we got the Sting, you know, we got the big ones. So all the punk bands that got signed got dropped, you know. And Simple Minds were about to be dropped. Ultravox were about to be dropped. So I was like, Midge, we got to get these fucking musicians, right? But we can't afford them. Why don't we just do a project where we get some bloke, Steve, and he can be the pop star in the video with all his friends, and we'll just make the music and produce it. And I found this girl called Ronnie. So Midge is like, bring it on, you know. So I go, well, I've got this idea. Let's do in the year 2525, because it's futurist. So the bottom line was, I was feeding Midge all what you would now do with AI. You just sit in front of AI and go, I want a drum like that, I want a guitar like that, I want it to do that, you know. Yeah, I'm a genius. You know? So Midge and I then started to put it together. And the DJing, I started to become good at it, you know. Meaning, well, I'm a drummer. In those days, they didn't have the BPM. So you put a record on, let's say you got everybody dancing, like Sparks. I don't know if you know Sparks, the #1 song in heaven, right? So you put that on by Giorgio Moroder and Sparks. And then after 2 minutes, it suddenly went dump, 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 and everybody's on it. Oh my God, it went up to like The Cure, you know, the tempo of The Cure. It completely trebled. So I used to have to write on the record 100 BPM, 102 BPM, so that I knew I could put this record on, then put that record on. So I started to understand what they call now beat matching DJs, but the decks couldn't do it, right? You couldn't do anything. So you had to hold your finger here, you had to get chewing gum and put a penny on it, and there were all these things where you were trying to, and then of course Billie Jean, tick tock, do 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 do, piece of piss, right? And you could, oh, that's easy. So then you thought, why don't I just make a band with real musicians and drum machines, right? Which is what Fade to Grey is, right? Just keep it, and just keep it simple. 45 years after making that record, I've written a book.
Called The Autobiography.
And my trolls have said, he wouldn't let it lie. And I've been watching Simple Minds. They've got a group called The Minds. And they just sound like me. Yeah, we went in the studio and then I did do. He played the bass and he did the guitar and then Jim wrote it. And I was like, well, what do you mean he wrote it? I wrote the lyrics of Blocks on Blocks when I went to Berlin. Steve wrote the lyrics of Tar. Steve wrote the lyrics of Mind of a Toy. I wrote Visa Age. I took Midure to see Ennio Morricone soundtrack movies and said, we need an Ennio Morricone, which is the inspiration for Blue Monday, in case anybody knows. Do. And I said, we need to do a track called Malpaso Man, which is basically Clint Eastwood. Then I played him Yellow Magic Orchestra, Moon Over Moscow. So it was all kind of like us. And we made the Visage album in 79. We released the first single in 79. And it's credited, written, arranged and produced by Visage. And I flipped the B-side over, Frequency 7, which is now, I've been told, a Detroit techno pioneering record by DJ somebody that I've never heard of. And I have to go, no, I made that. Yeah, but it was made famous by DJ somebody. You know how they're like. And then I'm like, well, I made Afrika Bambaataa, I made that. But you just get erased, you just get erased. So the point was, the experimentation was really interesting. And if you listen to Adam and the Ants, who you love, Malcolm said, listen to this and get another drummer. And now fuck off. And Adam walks out of there after Deutsche Girls doesn't work. But somebody might say something to you. You might be drunk in a pub and pissed off. Even your girlfriend left you. Somebody will give you a nugget of advice, but it'll go in one ear and out the other. But 20, 30 years later, you'll go, fucking hell, he told me. And I learnt that people only who love you will cross the room and tell you something you don't want to hear. People who don't love you won't. So the Burundi Drummers.
Yeah, which is a great track.
But
which you did.
Imagine you'd never heard of it. And getting two drummers in the band. Imagine you never thought of it. And then you become a career, Kings of the Wild Frontier.
Absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. But if you're sitting in an interview and somebody goes, so when did you come up with that idea? And you're like bullshitting away, I don't know if you know, but Malcolm McLaren, before he passed away, he did a talk like this.
Did he really? Wow.
And it was called Karaoke. And he said, pop music is just karaoke now. And I can't tell the difference between Zara Larsson, Dua Lipa, and 25 others because of the sound, the music. It's all the same programs, the same programmers, the same writers, the same sounds. But when you heard Fade to Grey, Chris Payne on the poly synth, you went, wow. When you heard Gary Newman, wow. When you heard the Stooges, there was only one band that sounded like that, And the Pistols, what a sound, that record. So that enthusiasm in me, which I have, it's a drug. And when I don't have it for a while, I go, I better go online and listen to some music. I go on Bandcamp, and then I find Julia Bondar, and I just click on it and share it and say, God, I fucking love this. And now it takes 4 albums later and 90 seconds of a TikTok. And everybody goes, oh, have you heard of Julia Bonder? Oh, and you're like, you know, I've got friends that tell me about 25 albums of people that I've never heard of. Jack Ladder and the Dreamlanders, who the fuck is he? And then you hear it and you go, oh my God, it's great, you know? So I'm like that. To me, if you send me a link and say, Rusty, you've got to hear this, New Men. Who the fuck are New Men? There's some German krautrock guys, you're going to love it. I just made a song with them called Dusseldorf. And they appeared with me in Dusseldorf. You know, that's what I want. And then I call up Glenn Matlock, and I say, Glenn, I'm doing this album, which is taking me forever. And that's the name of a song. What do you mean? Well, I want to write a song about forever. They live on, they live on. We lost Mick Ronson, we lost Steve New, and as I went through the list of Mike Peters and Brian James, and we lost them, and as I think we just lost Clem Burke, and we're going to lose me, and we're going to be gone, but the music will live on forever. So I went to Chelsea Arts Club, which I can afford now, and I'm old enough. You got to be over 70 to go there. Anyway, and they had a band on, and the guy was just a natural, and he started singing Gloria. In case anybody doesn't know Van Morrison, right? G-L-I-O-R, Gloria. And Bob Geldof jumped up on stage with him. And he was just a natural. And then you go and talk to him, you go, yeah, I've been on the road for 7 years. And you're like, my God, you're only 27? And you're like, yeah, we've just done a tour of what? And he said, yeah, my manager's Dave Robinson. No. And I hooked up with them, and I said, I've got this song. And he just did it like that. And he's going to do it tonight. Johnny's here tonight.
Fantastic, yeah.
And he's going to sing a song about Mick Ronson, David Bowie, Mark Bolan, everyone we fucking loved.
Absolutely.
And do you know when they say, do you know where you were the day John Lennon died and all that? It's like never ending now, isn't it? Do you know where you were the day Clem... Do you know when you found out? All it is now is we're in the fucking God's waiting room, aren't we? It's my turn. Who's turned next, you know?
I want to get back to the Blitz because and talk about the Camden Palace as well. So we briefly talked about DJing. So tell us about, you know, obviously this is celebrating the Blitz.
Does everybody really want to hear that shit? If you're a techie, there's a word. Technology, 12-inch BPM, dance music. The decks became... SL1200s, I think they were called, and you could actually slow the record down. You know, you could actually do things with it. Okay. Now you can press a button, and when you slow it down, it stays in the same key. What? It doesn't even go like that. I mean, and you get some bloke, some DJ going, here's my new record. And then he just presses the button and it's a sample from like some 1970s record, right? This is my new song, David Guetta, you know? And you're like, what is your new song? And what is love? No, my new song is called Baby Don't Hurt Me, Don't Hurt Me, Don't Hurt. And I'm like, totally uninteresting. But if I listen to Brian Eno, Stretched, what is that? Well, it's Brian Eno's album, 6 hours long. And you put it on at night on your headphones and you lie there and it literally is transcendental meditation. And I'm like, oh my God, how did he come up with that? It's so wonderful. And that is the drug. If you just keep searching, you'll get it. In the meantime, you watch somebody who got a Grammy and you're going, what for? Because there's no innovation. There's no innovation. There's no like, I wonder what would happen if I hit this drum, but I sent that drum into a harmonizer. I'll tell you what happened, Low, the album Low. And I heard that drum sound. How did he do that? Well, you know, they tried out this harmonizer. So I tried that out, as you do. And then I tried out Gating the Plate. And they all talk about Phil Collins, do go, 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 go. That drum sound was the first time you ever heard it. But I don't know if you've heard, he did another record called I Know There's Something Going On with the girl from ABBA. And his drums on that, the sound. But because he was the drums on RAF, the B-side to Snatch, Red Army Faction, which I played in the Blitz, I followed the drums because he was an innovator of a drum sound, you see? So if you buy something new, like a television, and it comes with a load of channels, and you never say, I wonder what else it comes with. And 10 years later, somebody goes, oh, you never watched that channel? I didn't know we had it. You mean it's been sitting here all that time, you never knew you had it? So the point was, these instruments, these synthesizers, these drums, these were ideas as important as Malcolm McLaren said to Adam, have you listened to that? So I found a bloke called J.J. Selleck. And you go, who's he? Well, he was the bloke who delivered the equipment that you hired and nobody knew how to work it. So you said, have you read the manual? I don't know if anyone knows. That's what killed Kraftwerk. Because Kraftwerk decided, right, we've had this studio for all these years. We've even taken it on the road and done Pocket Calculator. And now there's the Human League and New Order, and we need to get ahead of the game. And they then upscale because they had loads of money, and they bought Fairlights and they bought all these computers, and then they were every day like going to a job, reading the manual. How does it work? And if you listen to the Visage album, the first one, when it starts, it goes whoa, whoa, da-da-da. That's Peter Gabriel. You go, what? Yeah, it's Peter Gabriel, because Peter Gabriel and Kate Bush were the first people to be given the use of the Fairlight. So they're the presets. So when you turn it on and you press this button, there'll be a drum, there'll be a bass, there'll be whatever. You're now supposed to, what's it called, AI it. I want it to do this. And then you could make it do things. So the point really was, I'm into wondering what it can do. What can I do with it? So if you hear the theme tune at the top of the pops, yeah, that's a drum machine. No, it's me. And you go, what? No, it's me. I play like I'm a drum machine. And then when people go, yeah, but you're a shit drummer, I say, so's the drummer on Don't You Want Me? And Tainted Love. He's rubbish, the drummer on Tainted Love. And actually, Depeche Mode's drummer, he was a tape machine. He was on stage and he had a name. I think it was Martin. No, that was OMD. OMD's drummer was called Martin, and he was a TIAC. So I was a drummer in 1979 when we made that album, knowing full well that nobody gives a fuck about drummers. The future's coming, like nobody gives a fuck about an Uber driver. I'll just get in a car. Oh, look, it works. There's no driver. I don't care. I don't care about the driver. I don't care about the drummer. I don't care anymore because drum machines are here. And that was the bit that musicians didn't like. And they even had T-shirts that said, computers have taken the soul out of music. You can find them. And they were musos. Well, hold it, I like a bass player who can play. I like a guitar player who can play. But I can just go tick-tock, tick-tock, do-do-do-do-do. And if you're not interested, Michael Jackson put on Hall & Oates, and then he programmed the drums to copy Hall & Oates. And that's how he came up with that. Mano Dibango is don't stop till you get enough. People will always lift. People will always say, oh, I was listening to this album, Kraftwerk. Went out straight out and bought a drum machine. Martin Ware will tell you. You know.
So tell us why people are still interested in the Blitz and why people are...
Let's give Steve his credit.
Ago.
Would Midure have gone into a gay bar in Mead Street when he was 22, good-looking boy, and met Giles from accounts who'd had a few too many and was cruising? No. Would No. Would I? No. So Steve took me into the gay world. And don't forget, the gay world was already Studio 54. It was already, you know, Holst and Gucci. It was already sex and drugs and all those 80s movies about gays, you know, Cruising and New York and Meat Market, Meat Packers. They were all dressed like village people. They were all bikers and moustaches. And they were going to that leather bar. And so the gay world, for a heterosexual guy in a band, was not exactly where you would go. So again, like David Bowie said, go into uncharted waters. Well, I'll go, I can handle myself, you know, I'll be all right, you know. And I heard I Feel Love. And I heard Space, Magic Fly. And I heard Amanda Lear, you know. And they did play Roxy music, you know, Love is the Drug. And I thought, yeah, the music's good. Some of it, but you know. And then I went to another club and they played exactly the same playlist. First I was amazed, I was petrified. I must have heard that 1,000 fucking times. So I said, Steve, we need a club where we play the Georgia Moroder and He's a Spacer. Yeah, Chic. Yeah, I mean, there's some good stuff.
Great stuff.
But I want to play Kraftwerk. I want to play The Normal. I want to play Lou Reed. I want to play I'm Waiting for My Man. I want to play Iggy Pop. He said, well, why don't we then just go in a little bar here, it's fucking empty. And we went in like an arrogant person that I am and said, you're fucking empty. We can fill up your bar. Look at me, I can't even fill up this place in the middle of Soho on a Thursday night. I can, they're all late, that's why. Nobody goes out early, do they? Even all my own staff are not here yet. They all thought, let's arrive after the Q&A because we don't want to hear Rusty. and I agree with them. I agree with them. He can half go on, can't he, Terry? But that was the point. Steve opened me up to a whole different world, and gay people were so happy. They didn't want to beat me up. There were no thugs in there. There was no violence. You know.
Women felt safe.
And the other day, I was in the Groucho Club, and I pulled a photograph out of me and Philip Salon. And I'm wearing a German leather coat. You remember them ones we'd wear? And I'm wearing a black leather tie. And standing next to me is Philip Salomon in a wedding dress. And it's all ripped open, and he's got smeared lipstick, you know, looking like a trailer trash bride. And I'm literally in the reception of the Groucho Club. And I showed the picture to the receptionist, who's possibly a Gen A 20. And I said, oh, look at me, like 40 years ago in Soho. And I met Philippa. She thought she could get me back to hers, but I could see she's got no tits. And she said, I'm offended.
Really?
I said, what? She said, I'm offended by what you said. I said, you're a receptionist of a club in Soho that wouldn't even accept Groucho Marx as a member. But you're offended. So, on the way here, I'm with a mate of mine, and I said, we're not meant to be alive. We were meant to have died in acid house days, some warehouse in Deptford that I woke up in, some shit relationship that was a toxic, fucked up relationship, some criminal that entered my life. We're not meant to be here. So when I leave here tonight and I walk down Soho and go past Bar Italia and my head still thinks I'm 20, Philip Salon got beaten up in Soho. He got hospitalised. I've got a track out called Ultra V, and it opens with this opening scene of A Clockwork Orange. And on YouTube it says, you had to be very brave to go out in the late 70s to where we wanted to go. And it was a homophobic, violent, ugly world. And believe it or not, 45 years later, it still is, isn't it? It still is, but they're all on Facebook now, slagging you off. So anyway, for people that are really interested in it, I really was like the person that Steve said, do you think we could? And I said, yeah. So I was open to everything. And I mean, I went to Adam's Club, which is a bar where you went in a dark room and you felt bodies. They in a room. I didn't, for a joke, they'd say, oh, the toilet's that way, you know. And there's no lights or anything. In those days, there were like underground. Now you go to sauna places or you just turn on your gaydar. But I found the gay world where all the creatives were. I thought all the geniuses are there. And they were. And everybody I spoke to, I can't out them, because in those days, even, what's his name? Even, Freddie Mercury and George Michael were not gay, you know. And, you know, in those days, it was like that, you know. It was just another world that you didn't talk about. But they were the most creative, wonderful people. And I'm addicted to that, you see.
So let's talk about creative, wonderful people. So you're constantly making new music. So tell us about you've done 2 or 3 albums. The latest is Romantic, and we've got some wonderful, we've got Ruby, and we've got Andy and Johnny performing, but Ruby and Andy are on the latest album. But tell us
I was
about
in Ibiza when I met Andy.
Yeah, please.
I met Andy in Ibiza, and this is what I love about life. You could say I went to Leeds and I met Soft Cell, and I did, you know, and I found Depeche Mode, and I went to the Bridge House in Canning Town. You know, you don't just walk around the corner from your house. I mean, you go, I remember I went there, it was pouring with rain, and I had to change at West Ham, and I didn't know where I was. And then I saw Depeche Mode with Simps on fucking beer crates. And I met Daniel Miller, and then I met Fad Gadget. And you're like, you have to go out like you guys have tonight. Thank you. You have to, oh, it's raining. I remember having the Camden Palace, but Hill Street Blues was on. I said, well, you missed fucking Prince and Madonna then, didn't you? You know, they fucking missed everything. Oh, I saw Hill Street Blues. You know, so it was like, well, great, you're going to fucking miss it. And that's what I hate about the record industry. All these A&R blokes with company cards and flash credit cards. Mate, come to this bar in Mayfair, there's a band playing. The backing singer's Sade. I was there, but you didn't show up. Yeah, bring me the demo. You want me to... I remember at Acid House when I found Seal. Could I get Trevor Horn to come to a fucking rave in a field on the M25 if I gave him the address at midnight? No! And that was the point. I was there. And that was the point. You know, 1977, I was there. You know, I could say it. All this AI stuff can come up. You know, and I was in Berlin. Oh, I was there. I went to the SO37. I saw New Order at Hurrah in New York. I was there for Simple Minds. I was there at Paradise Garage. I was there at the Ritz. And it's sort of like, that's my life, because that is my life.
That's what one of the reasons why I love about you, because you find a new talent all the time.
Yeah.
Making new music.
But when I came back to London, I went to the Camden Palace and I met a bloke going, this club's great. I said, this club is fucking rubbish. You haven't been to Berlin. You haven't been to Paris. You haven't seen clubs in New York.
Yeah.
This is just an empty old toilet with a shit sound system with some crap punk bands. And then the owners heard about Club for Heroes, Blitz Club, Fade to Grey. Well, let's have a meeting. And it was all like plastic palm trees and fucking pina coladas and Tom Cruise cocktail and Peter Stringfellow and the Frisbee Fox or something. But I was like, Tuesday night's called Trash.
I used to go.
And we're going to open with Divine, you know.
Oh, Divine.
And the opening night, Amanda Lear. And they're going, who the fuck are all the owners? I kept saying, just shut the fuck up and count the money. Shut up. And I'm arrogant. No, I just know it's right. That album, Visage, guess where we recorded it? For nothing. Martin Russian, who didn't know what a drum machine was. All he knew was the Stranglers and the Buzzcocks, right? So Martin Russian sat in the studio with a mouthy fucker like me going, Martin, forget all that punk shit. Listen to this. Listen to this. This is how you do it. I don't care. I'll play the hi-hat, like a sample. There you go. I'll play the kick drum. Do, 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 do. New sounds, new shapes, new styles. That's the role my fashion takes. Boom! And it was like directing what you love. You know, if you got the chance, if you worked in a shop and they were like, no, you got all the wrong colours, you got all the wrong, nobody will wear yellow, no, and you're ordering all the wrong stuff, put that in the window. And there was always some assistant or part-timer or somebody that was like an intern. They're full of the ideas, they're full of the enthusiasm. And there's like, yeah, well, you're only 20. The sound man's 20. The producer, the director. I was 19 when I was in The Clash. You know, George Michael wrote Careless Whisper when he was 16. Richard Jobson was on Top of the Pops when he was 17. Ahoy, ahoy. You get what I mean? I'm just a champion of
new talent.
Total,
or great talent.
When I saw Sade and I got her first demo, I couldn't get arrested. And Lee, her manager, was round our house every night. There's pictures of him with Steve. And it was like, he listened to Steve Dagger, and Dagger said, unless they give you a big advance, they won't promote you. So I couldn't sign him. But I signed Johnny H. Jazz. He was 18. I went to buy something in the King's Road, and the bloke in the shop said, my little brother, he's a songwriter. I said, let me hear it. And I signed Shattered Dreams, fucking platinum album. I signed Bill Laswell. Who's he? I could be wrong, I could be right, I could be black. He produced that and Herbie Hancock Rocket.
Classic records.
I signed B-Movie, Nowhere Girl. He went on to write Dido's album. Robert Perino, who's here tonight, Shock,
yeah.
Angel Face. He had a band called Pleasure and the Beast, and the keyboard player wrote Don't Stop Moving, but it's Club 7. But I just signed these bands. You won't believe my keyboard player's in S Club 7, you know, but he wrote the hit. You don't know that Norman, the drummer in the House Martins, is going to be Fatboy Slim. You know, you don't know. When I heard Deadmau5, his first ever record, Fax in Berlin, I was like online trying to find this guy, and I went to all the Deadmau5 gigs. I was absolute total fan in the 90s. And Portishead, oh my God.
Yeah.
And just, you know, Massive Attack, oh my God. And I'm like that. It's continually, you know, there's always something that I love.
What's the time, everybody? Because I don't know if we've got time for anyone to ask a question for Rusty.
5 minutes past.
Oh, we've gone over.
He talks too much.
Okay, well, let me just quickly say, then, thank you very much, Rusty. We got some performances by everybody.
It's on the menu up there. Oh my God, I bought that record in Dusseldorf, and then I made a track on my new album with the producer, Zoyas B. Held, with Claudia Brooken.
Yes, which I love that song. And
it's great, isn't it?
But he produced my favourite Dead or Alive record, Sophisticated Boom Boom.
Oh, 20 jazz greats. So, everybody, what's going to happen in this room? Upstairs there's a mad bloke called John Cross. He's really a lovely, lovely guy. I don't know what he's going to play, but it'll probably be very cheesy. Probably be Dave Gaskin and Barbara, whatever her name was. Do you remember that record?
It's My Party.
Yeah.
I love that song.
Party.
Great song.
Yeah. He's going to play some weird stuff upstairs. What's going to happen here now is the album that I wrote called Romantic, I collaborated with loads of wonderful people with, and some songs that I wrote lyrics of. The actual singers are here, and we're going to just press play and they're going to sing. And then Johnny Foster from Hardwick Circus, he's going to sing Forever. And during all that, there are going to be amazing visuals. And there's the set list there. We're running late. And then there's an after party with half-price drinks at the Sanctum Hotel, where I'm going to get as many females as possible into my suite, and then say goodbye to this cruel world and say it's what he would have wanted. Because we've got some beautiful burlesque artists here. And if anybody knows... Fade to Grey, Visage, Steve Strange, The Front. For those who don't speak French, Visage means?
Face.
The face. So the face of visage was Steve Strange, Lorraine and Perry from Hot Gossip. And Perry is here tonight. So she's been choreographing the girls that are going to perform while I play great, amazing records that I loved and or wrote, made, played at some point in my life. And you don't even have to dance. You can just sit there, because you've now got a bus pass. And you can hear great music, see them. I'd love it. You know what? If I could go to a concert and just sit there and hear all my favourite music, you know, and tell the bloke who's dancing in front of me, sit down, mate, sit down. You're 45, you're squeezed into your trousers hanging out over it. Disgusting. Sit down. So anyway, TerryTopCat, if you can catch his podcasts, they're fantastic. Who was the last person you had on?
Gosh, I can't remember. Well, I'm going to be...
Marco Peroni!
that hasn't been published
But you've
yet,
done it?
Yeah, I've interviewed him, yeah.
Yeah.
And Gloria Jones.
Gloria Jones.
Next week.
Tainted Love.
Yeah,
Tainted Love.
she's amazing.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you to Jack for the sound as
Jack's
well.
doing amazing.
Everyone
thank
who's
you, Jack.
behind the scenes, thank you very much.
Yeah, we got merchandise out the front, which is all official merchandise with Sheila Rock. And in case you didn't know, Mark Wardell, who has done all the artwork,
Amazing
fantastic,
guy.
isn't his artwork?
Yeah.
He did Pleasure Boys, did our artwork, Pleasure Boys, and he does defected nightclubs. You know, his imagery,
He's
I've
amazing.
always loved
Yeah.
it. And of course his Bowie stuff is phenomenal. He does all the masks. So I've tried to be inclusive of all the creatives that are involved in everything. So even if you just sit there, maybe get a drink now, come back down, I think you're going to absolutely love who we got coming on here tonight. Thank you everybody for listening to me rambling.
Thank you, everybody.
TerryTopCat.
Thanks.